announce the 3 national winners. This year the first community sector winner is the Mornington Island Restorative Justice Project from Queensland. The Mornington Island, let's give them a clap. This project provides mediation for individual and extended family disputes and workplace disputes and diversionary victim offender mediation. It also prevents conflict by facilitating family meetings on a range of contentious and personal issues. The project has enhanced the community's capacity to manage their own disputes without violence, diverting offenders from contact with the formal criminal justice system and increasing satisfaction with the justice system for victims, for offenders, their families and indeed the broader community. The project has brought to an end large and protracted grudge fights between extended families that were previously a common disruption to community life. As an ancillary outcome, the local design and delivery of community-based mediation has strengthened respect for and the authority of the elders, and that's very important. Over time, the practice of mediation provides an important opportunity for younger community members to develop leadership skills and also earn respect as the next emerging leaders. So let's welcome them and thank them. Great pleasure to ask Dr. Berry Zondag to accept the award on behalf of the project.
Thank you very much. We are allowed to have a 1-minute speech, I understand. And first and foremost, I would like to acknowledge my good friend and our senior Indigenous mediator in Kydalt, Elder Roger Kelly, who was looking very much forward to coming here today to receive the award, but unfortunately his health prevented him from travelling any further than Brisbane, where he is now in hospital. He's okay and he will travel back with us, but he's not here today. Jungri Laka is really grateful for receiving this award today. I'm just going to put on my glass to see this. We do also see this, however, as the recognition of a vision that was shared by the federal and the state, the Queensland Departments of Justice, almost a decade ago. They persisted with a new approach to this project that we are running. Rather than sending a provider down with a ready-made solution in a suitcase, they engaged in very careful and lengthy community consultation. The result was a mediation and conflict resolution process that aligned closely with cultural and traditional ways on Mornington Island. Secondly, a long-term commitment was made, allowing us to develop and grow this service as the community's needs are changing over time. We are now in the 7th year of operation with our service. And thirdly, the management and delivery of the service was fully handed over to a truly local organisation. We believe that these 3 factors are critical to the success we have with our service. We hope that today's award will support us in convincing the government to work with us to develop more programs for the needs of Mornington Island. Thank you very much.
The second community section winner is the Transition from Detention program in Tasmania. The Transition from Detention program targets young people between the ages of 12 and 17 years who have been in detention or are on remand, and it does assist them in reintegrating them into the community rather than back into a cycle of offending. The program works in partnership with the Youth Justice, Child Protection and the Department of Education, with other community agencies as well. Save the Children youth workers and other community agencies work with the young people to identify their recreational, educational, vocational and their employment goals and aspirations. So the practical and mentoring support is provided to the young person to help them meet these goals. Since it's begun, the program has made a difference to the lives of 53 individuals. There has been numerous positive outcomes for those young people involved in the program on their release into the community, and they include 26 who've engaged in further education and vocational opportunities, getting jobs. 46 have been involved in positive recreational opportunities. 13 have gained employment, and 34 have not returned. This is probably the most important bit. 34 of them have not returned to youth detention. So it's with great pleasure to ask Ms Lisa Kuat to come forward and accept the award.
Chris just asked me if I want to say a few words. I do. Just like to thank Minister Keenan and the Institute of Criminology for the award, and also I'd like to acknowledge and congratulate the other award recipients. Over the last 5 years in Tasmania, Save the Children has been tough on crime. But for Save the Children, being tough on crime means creating connection for the young people that we work with. Connection to inspiring, positive, reliable, safe adults who recognise young people's strengths and build upon them. Connection to positive recreational activities, and connection to education, which is critical to breaking the cycle of offending. And we know this approach works for young people.
I just want to talk briefly about one of the young people we've worked with. On his 4th sentence to Ashley Youth Detention Centre at the age of 15 for driving a stolen car into a pursuing police vehicle, along with a few other offences, he spent 13 months in detention. During this time in detention, he engaged with me weekly, sometimes twice weekly, to develop a strong relationship in which his personal goals were set and plans made for him once he returned to the community. In 2013, he was released, and over the last 2.5 years, Save the Children Australia have supported him to achieve all of the goals that we set for him in detention. These include getting his driver's licence, playing cricket, getting some independent accommodation, and playing AFL, which for the last 2 years he's received the Best and Fairest award. It's not bad. And tomorrow he's going to finish his Certificate 2 in Building and Construction, which means he'll be eligible to get a building apprenticeship. This is the person who hasn't been to high school since day 1 of grade 7. This is one of our many clients who we've tried to help change their lives. We know this approach works in Tasmania.
Got some other pretty amazing statistics about the program. Since Save the Children began programming in 2011, there's been a 66% drop in the number of young people held in juvenile detention in the state, and a 43% drop in the number of young people appearing in the Magistrates Court. These are extraordinary numbers. And we know that this approach works economically. The results of a recent Ernst & Young social return on investment study on Save the Children's youth justice programs in Tassie found that for every $1 spent, there's $3.50 created in value. So the government is making significant savings, in fact $5.5 million over 4 years, due to reduced juvenile detention, community youth justice, legal aid and court costs. So this is what I would consider to be very smart justice. If we want results, a reduction in offending and reoffending, then this is what tough on crime should look like, building connection for young people. Thank you.
So the Australian Crime Violence Prevention Awards also recognise those projects organised and facilitated by police that demonstrate a contribution above and beyond normal day-to-day policing efforts. This year's National Police Award winner is Operation Disrepair in South Australia. This project prevents and reduces victimisation of online fraud activity. Financial intelligence is utilised to identify potential victims sending money overseas. Remitters are sent precautionary letters and fraud advice. Hotline is set up and advice, if required, includes a personal visit by the police to those persons who are affected. So over the life of this project, there's been an overall reduction in the number of remitters and the amount of money being sent by victims overseas. The Operation Disrepair has collaborated with the South Australian Commissioner for Victims' Rights and the Victim Support Services to assist in preventing fraud victimisation, setting up a support group of fraud awareness. So it's with great pleasure we ask Detective Superintendent Mark Wysick to come forward and accept the award.
Well, thank you. It's with great pleasure that I accept this award on behalf of the South Australian Police for Operation Disrepair. This operation was an initiative set up by the Major Fraud Investigation Section of SAPOL in 2013. And it was a proactive measure because resources required to investigate crime, fraud and scamming activity is quite intensive when you look at the number of offences that occur. So a prevention and an education approach was really what was required. And it's not just about the sending of the letters, but it's also about sending information to people that will help them understand the telltale signals of scamming activity and fraud, and also to provide that personal contact with investigators either through the hotline or through personal contact for those that actually, because some actually continue to send money and they're in a little bit of denial in respect to what's occurring. The other important thing is the impact that these offences have on people. Generally, it could be twofold. Not only have they lost money, but in some circumstances, they've lost a relationship that they thought that they had, which is quite compounding in itself. So being able to have that support through victim support services, the counselling, the actual support of other people that have gone through the same thing because they can't speak about it to family members quite often. It's very, very difficult to speak to family members about it. So that support is vital to success. So being able to reduce the amount of money leaving South Australia each month, and also the amount of people sending that money was quite a good achievement. We're very proud of it, and we're looking to continue. Thank you very much.
The next award is to the Smith Street Dreaming Project by the Smith Street Working Group in Victoria. They'll receive an award of $5,000 and a certificate of merit. This is a locality-based project in Smith Street, a well-known trading precinct in the city of Yarra. Since settlement, it's been a place of belonging and gathering for Indigenous Australians. The street presents a complex mix of challenging issues. The project has built relationships of respect between the local Aboriginal communities, the Smith Street businesses, Victoria Police and the wider community to bring about a harmonious coexistence for everyone. It has reduced crime, fear of crime, and importantly built social capital between all the stakeholders. The street's been beautified to increase prosperity and to increase employment opportunities and build an inclusive, peaceful and strong community. That's a culture that epitomises care for one another and is now the tagline for Smith Street Dreaming: one street, many mobs, one community. So,
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Chris. I have the honour today to represent the Smith Street Working Group, and I pay my respect to those of us who could be here. Lorena representing Parkies Inc., Luke representing Co-Health, Di Cook and Di Harris representing the Smith Street Business Association, and my colleague Marie. But there are many others who were involved in the work, and I must make a couple of special mention who couldn't be here today, in particular Senior Sergeant Peter Beckers, who was instrumental in making the work successful. I'm going to break the 1 minute or 2 minute rule, so I'm sorry because it's just our opportunity to speak on behalf of the working group, so I apologise for that. Smith Street was a really troubled street, characterised by high crime, social dysfunction, antisocial behaviour, ranging from public drinking, thefts to assaults. And police were called out to the street on a daily basis of about 10 times per day. Crime was high, and the relationship between the traders, the Aboriginal community and the police were quite dire and quite poor, and it was a street that nobody wanted to go to. It was a street that was, people didn't want to attend. But it was also a place of belonging for the Aboriginal community, a place of gathering, and a place of commerce for the traders and the police who attended were just there to do their job. They went there and arrested people. But often the arrests and the interactions were characterised by great disrespect. You know, we saw people having their heads knelt on, and we had to ask, well, how could we do this better? And the way we did that was to look at how could we look for the good in each other. What was there that we could do to celebrate one another? And we came up with, for example, the Smith Street Dreaming Celebration, and that was about celebrating culture. There is one message that I'd like to leave everyone with today, and that is, it's about relationship, and the relationship is about respect. So if we know each other by name, we're not going to assault one another, we're not going to disrespect one another. That's whether it's police or the Aboriginal community or traders, and that's what we've built. We knew that no matter how difficult it was, if we got the relationship right, the solution would come. But we also knew that no matter how brilliant your solution was, if you did not have the relationship, it wouldn't work. So we focus on relationship. After our work, after 18 months of eggshell walking and tough discussions, many on the streets, many in the communities, many with different members before we got to the table, we saw results. There was a reduction in crime by 33% in the street, and police call-outs dropped from 10 per day to 2 to 5 per month. I think that's a good example of what can be done when we just respect and look for the good in each other. So I accept this award on behalf of the Smith Street Working Group for every single one who was involved, and we are honoured, and it validates the hard work that we've gone through. So thank you very much.
Look, the next award actually also happens to be from Victoria, and we have Erica. Erica is not a young woman's name, it's Educate, Report, Inform Communities in Australia. So that acronym and the people that represent that receive an award of $5,000 and a certificate of merit. This project is about practical resourcing to educate youth, parents, carers, educators and staff to make informed choices and to identify concerning sexual behaviours. It consists of 3 programs. One is Respect Me, Don't Sext Me, an information pack which has been sent to every school in Victoria, aimed at 11 to 14-year-olds about the possible problems and outcomes of producing, sharing, receiving and possessing sexually suggestive or explicit material through the internet, through videos and text messages. Secondly, a social media safety booklet to educate workers and victims about police reporting options where a sexually abusive incident occurs online or via mobile technology. And thirdly, an online sexual assault reporting platform which allows people to anonymously report incidents of sexual assault, rape or any concerning or suspicious behaviour that they receive. That data is then passed on to Victoria Police, and users can opt to be contacted by a counsellor. And presently there are about 2 of those reports received anonymously every week. So great pleasure to ask Ms Carolyn Worth to come forward and accept the award.
I just wanted to say is we did send the information pack to every school in Victoria, 2 copies. The reason was I didn't know how many schools there were in Victoria. So when the education department said, could we have one in every school? I said, absolutely. They said, could we have 2? I said, yes. And I got back to work and someone said to me, do you know how many schools there are in Victoria? I said, no. About 60 or 80? They said, no, 2,240. So this is often what happens with us. But on a more serious note, most people don't actually report sexual assault, so I just want to talk about the sour out for a second. Those who do report sexual assault actually tell a family, friend, relative. They do not tell anyone in a position of authority, someone who will do something. Our actual day job at CCARS is providing sexual assault and family violence counselling and therapy for obviously victims of sexual assault and family violence. Most of those have actually never had any contact with the justice system at all. But one of the themes that often runs through what they tell us is we feel we should have done something. We should have told somebody because we don't want to think the offender's still doing this to other people, and that makes us feel really guilty. So over time, and with a few other incidents like Jill Moe and so on that happened, we actually thought perhaps we could do something anonymously. So we actually created SARA, which was, we're good at acronyms, you can see, Sexual Assault Reporting Online. And in fact, what has happened that we've passed this information on to the police, and the police actually use it. It took a while for us to build those relationships, but police take it in each state and territory and use it. The odd development has actually been that most people put their mobile phone on the anonymous reporting website, which is slightly interesting. So they ask us to contact them. So it's almost like everything's too difficult about it, and reporting anonymously, with the anonymously being very clear, makes them feel they can do that. They then ask to be contacted at the end with their mobile number, which is, I think, a really good outcome, because many of the assaults are violent, they're very dangerous people who are out there, and any information we can pass on to the police is very useful, and any help we can give to victims.
The last award for today is acknowledging the Staying Home, Staying Safe project in South Australia. They received a meritorious certificate. This project reduces the risk of homelessness for women affected by domestic and family violence. By working in partnership with contractors across South Australia, the program has improved the safety and reduced the risk of homelessness for nearly 3,000 women in South Australia. This has been achieved through safety planning, mobile phones, duress alarms, window and or personal alarms, and enhancing the security or sensor lights, for instance. The project does make a positive difference to the lives of these women by enabling them to stay at home instead of having to flee violent partners, ex-partners or relatives. Last financial year there was a 35% increase in the number of referrals to the program. Great pleasure to ask Mr Julian Roth to come forward and accept the award.
Lucky last. I'd like to thank the Minister and the Australian Institute of Criminology for bestowing this award on the Staying Home, Staying Safe programme. We are extremely honoured to receive it today. It's a real acknowledgement of the hard work that the Victim Support Service has put into this programme over the last 4 years, where we've seen a 6-fold increase in referrals into the programme over that time span. We're now receiving something like 60 referrals a week into the programme. I'd also like to acknowledge South Australia Police, congratulate them on their award today, because we have a fabulous relationship with SAPOL, and we really couldn't deliver this programme unless we were working in such a strong partnership arrangement with them. I'd also like to thank the VSS board, because they have made a real commitment to this programme, and I'd like to acknowledge Karen Fulliger, who's the chair of our board here today. And I'd also like to acknowledge the management team represented here by Nikki Lampshed, who, it's fair to say, have gone beyond the call of duty really to deliver such a fabulous outcome through this programme. But in particular, I'd really like to thank, in their absence today, our frontline staff, because this is really challenging, confronting, difficult work, and they go at it day in, day out. And I really would like to say a big thank you to them today. I was actually coming across today from Adelaide, and I was reading the In-Flight magazine, as you do, and they were talking about the CEOs of the year 2015. I wasn't in it, by the way. There's always next year. And they interviewed a guy called Mike Kane, who's the CEO of Boral, and they asked him, what quality do you think we should look for in all of our leaders? And he said, they must have an ability to build mutual trust. And I was thinking about that in the context of our frontline staff, because one of the things that they are really fantastic at doing is they can go out and connect with women who are in really difficult situations. They can quickly build trust with them when they're facing these extremely vulnerable, fragile women who can often feel alone, who are facing not only family and domestic violence, but also potentially eviction from the family home. I've actually been working with disadvantaged communities for over 20 years now, both in the UK and now in Australia. And I can honestly say, in terms of the programs I've worked with, this is the one that delivers the most tangible outcomes in a most immediate way to vulnerable clients. So by completing audits and retrofitting security devices to the family home, the Staying Home, Staying Safe program assists women to feel safer, to feel supported, but most critically, I think, to give them the confidence to start to assert their rights, starting off by keeping them and their children safe in the family home. So I want to thank both the federal and the state governments for their continuing support for this program, and to acknowledge the significant difference that it continues to make in the South Australian community. Thank you.
So that does conclude this year's award ceremony. Please tell other people about these awards. The Australian Crime and Violence Prevention Awards, while they're only awarded once annually, we've heard the reality of the issues confronting our communities around Australia, and it's inspiring to hear the work that's been explained, and further an opportunity for us to better understand how we can do better to take these projects even further forward. Also an opportunity for you to perhaps nominate other projects that you may be aware of with your respective work. So I'd like to thank you all. I'd like to thank the Minister, Member Bob Catter and Andrew Wilkie, and distinguished guests, but importantly the awardees and the very important work you're doing to make our community safe. Once again, thanks very much for coming.